All right, earlier this morning, I stated I was going to speak about what needs to be done to achieve the goal. Everyone's trying to talk about, the Democrats are trying to run out the clock and then use Trump's overreach to then think they're going to gain power. They will, midterms, and then the last will be the last. Vote, because then it's going to be J.D. Vance if we even have a country left at that point. If not J.D. Vance and somebody else. And even if we have voting, it's going to be so managed. It's not really a democracy anymore. And it's sad to see and listen to a lot of the persons who call themselves conservatives. There's always this rhythm of anger. It's just kind of like, dude, what you all pissed off about, bro? But it's quite sad, actually. It doesn't matter if they're Democrat or Republican. Bigots are always just angry little idiots and trying to always show off that anger. But the thing I was speaking about is, as I stated, the SEALs have been harassing me, and I said 25 years, but I added back, so I was about 23, so 22, 23. So that's my entire life, almost my entire adult life. The Department of Defense, Democrats, bigots have been violating and stealing everything from me. Because this entitlement, America spread this whole thing about fairness and hard work throughout the world. In the meantime, that they really meant only amongst a certain few. Everybody else was supposed to just sit there and take it. And I remember this morning I was reading a post by a real Texas conservative, and he had that. It was Obama. It said, before Obama, there was no ISIS, and before Obama, and they throw in all their negativity because, and this is something that's always been there, but it's with racism, bigotry, it's easier for a differentiator. It's harder for them to throw their negativity at somebody who looks like them. Because especially since for generations they've been trained to throw their negativity at people that don't look like them. And right now, the Department of Defense with Olson, and apparently it was a headline, I didn't actually get to read it, on WION, W-I-O-N, it's out of India. Said Hegseth recalled 800 generals. We don't have 800 generals, at least I don't think we should have 800 generals, but hey, I don't know. I don't know what that story was about. I'll get around to it, but it can't be good. Either he was pulling their clearances or doing something, but we'll see what happens with that when I go back and read it. What needs to happen now, the moves that Trump has made and are making is designed to be able, that executive order is designed to be able to arrest protesters and also dissuade veterans, especially if they have any VA benefits, because if you get arrested, not if you get arrested, but if you go to jail, you lose your VA benefits. And this is what he's up to. We have these protests on the 18th, on another No King's Day. My envisionment is, half million to a million veterans and just Americans in general protesting in D.C. and occupying the Washington Mall, as they did in the early 1900s. But in a more organized, well, they were actually extremely organized back then as well, where they had tents and everything, and because this is what needs to go on. But so many veterans have been brainwashed by Rupert Murdoch's Fox News into, because Fox is usually played on almost all of the bases only as Fox. There's not any counterbalance. That's why there's so many veterans that call themselves conservatives, and they all try to do this tough act, and it's just silly, actually. So what needs to start happening is, what I envisioned is, over the next several weeks until the 18th, more and more veterans showing up during the day, protesting during the day, disappearing at night. Then on the 18th, march from Arlington National Cemetery all the way to the Capitol, and then just occupy D.C. until the Democrats get their head out of their buttocks, which they don't want to do. They've been attacking me, and that's why they brought a Hillary and brought out Kamala, because they're like, okay, we got this guy under control, and now, oops, I guess God has something different, or whatever you believe, the divine, for that story, for the knowledge of what Hillary and the Democrats have been doing for the last several decades. It's funny, Jimmy Carter did a lot of good things. He set up he planted great seeds, and both the Republicans and the Democrats took those seeds and just destroyed the middle class of our country. And has everyone, of course, blaming the people who don't have anything, which is absolutely stupid. But it gets them to feed their anger. We're at everything seems on the surface so quiet, but you could feel it. Something's off. And it's subtlety, and people are just wanting, you saw it with the Charlie Kirk thing. The conservatives just want to be able to blame somebody and continue their white nationalism. And as I've said before, if you're proud to be white, you're proud to be white. That's fine. Who gives a snot? But when you are a bigot, you need to be white. You need to be better, because that's who you are, without earning it. And honestly, if you're a quote white person or Caucasian, and you need to be better without earning it, you're weakening the quote whole white race, because you can't compete. And if you can't compete, that whole survival of the fittest, the thing they all keep trying to say, which it's not what they mean by being stronger, it's the fittest within a system. But if you need that, then you're a weakling. Bottom line. And there are a lot of weaklings stomping around, beating their chest right now, because they can't compete. And the irony, the people who destroyed their schools for racism think they're going to use public money to rebuild their private schools. No, can't have that. That destroys it for everyone. If you want to go to a private school, pay for it like we used to back in the day. So here's the thing. Every day, starting on the 1st, veterans need to start gathering in D.C. I would suggest, I haven't spoken with Jolly Good Ginger, but he had a good organization going. He has some good capital ready for that. I'll email him and present this to him, see what he thinks about it. Because we're going to need donations. He can be trusted. Have pro bono lawyers on staff. Preparations for making sure the park's cleaned up, because Trump's is threatening to do a shutdown. And he's saying all these government workers, i.e. he's going to just start slashing even more government workers and then not hire him after the shutdown. So let's see if the Democrats really are for the working people and make sure that it's in the law that he has to rehire these people once the shutdown's over. But at that point, personally, preferably, the goal is to do the shutdown. And seriously, we have to close this government down for 3 months, 4 months, whatever, until the Democrats impeach, and if found guilty, remove those Republicans who did not uphold our Constitution. Then that would have been for naught, actually, and I don't do things for naught. Because if we do not do this, we do not take back our country now, everything that Americans fought for in the 20th century, and even if though it was the first republic with oligarchs, everything they supposedly fought for has been lost. But instead of it just being the few, but it could be the many. And Putin rope-a-doped all of our oligarchs into screwing over our country because they're trying to be as rich as him. And to be as rich as him, you have to then take over the country. And that's what Trump's trying to do. You can't be the man without beating the man, so to speak. So and since we are the people, and he thinks he's the man, he's doing everything he can to use our laws against us to protect him so he can screw us over. And it's not just him, the oligarchs, so they can screw us over. And we need to regain our country and bring back prosperity, bring back pride of work, bring back a shared prosperity for all. And we can still have ridiculously wealthy and rich people. But they don't get to dictate to the average Joe how they're supposed to live. This bullshit that McRaven and the Democrats have been doing for the last 30 years, this shit needs to stop. Pardon the language. This really needs to stop. Because, let's be honest, McRaven, the reason he's attacked me so hard is because he couldn't compete against me. Not if I was if I was Caucasian, I would have kicked his ass, because he would not have known who I was. And by the time he figured out how good I am, it would have been too late. But his bigotry, his cowardice, has put America in a weakened position, especially the U.S. Navy. Technologically wise, we're 30, 40 years behind where we should be. China shouldn't be this close to us. But by removing so much of the population from being able to be our best, we're weakened. And then to take all that capital and just shove it in the hands of a few persons, we're weakened. A forest isn't a monoculture. A forest that grows well is multiple different plants and things working together to reinforce and strengthen each other. We're destroying ourselves, we're destroying our planet. And this has to end. And the only people who can stop it are Americans. The world is watching. But I'll guarantee you this. Trump did this flip-flop back with Ukraine. He doesn't give two flips about Ukraine. He only sees it as the whole Russian thing. He doesn't, and he even says, someone will say, oh, he's doing this great big geopolitical thing. No, the geopolitical thing they're creating is return to kingdoms, return to empires. And that was just wars, massive, large-scale wars every 3 to 5 years. Now imagine a World War III every 5 to 10 years. That'll get rid of the population, don't get me wrong. But is that the world you really want to live in? You have to ask yourself, what's the world that I want to live in? Most people want this peace that we have in America, where you can go to the other side of the country and start up a business and give it a go. You know, our civic sense of putting things in the garbage and complaining all the time, but we still do things. You know, I'm thinking about that because I was thinking about in India, where it's just an absolute blob of a mess. But we have a civic sense, and he was talking. East Indian was talking about how East Indians don't have a civic sense. That civic pride is what makes America. There's so many moving psychological parts that make America. But on the other side, we've always had that darkness where the psychopaths have externalized all of their hate and anger onto African Americans to squeeze and steal from European Americans. Well, African Americans don't have anything anymore. You've stolen everything. You put 50 to 60% of their men, black men, into prisons. That's the other reason they hate me, because I keep sidestepping on their tries to put me in a prison. If there's nobody to squeeze, and they go, "Oh, we got all black women." Well, Trump just showed you the weakness of what's going on with black women. Fired everyone, and then make sure there's no money for startups. This is done on purpose, man. This needs to end. And European American men, if you're such Billy Badass, you should be able to compete. You should be able to compete with black men. You already got the schools, you already got, like, as Joy Reid was saying, you got everything. What you bitching about? Oh, because you're losing stuff. You're looking the wrong direction. Your problem is not sideways or in front of you. It's up. And what used to be the boss man was okay. He was up there. You can still see the office. Reality is the Bezos and all these. You can't see with them. It's like literally they're sitting on the moon, and you're sitting on there, and you're not even on the equator. You're in some hovel in the earth trying to see them without a telescope. This is one of the reasons McRaven wanted me to not speak, because he stole my things, and then they've been hammering me, because I've been thinking about different philosophies recently, so my mind's in a philosophical mood, and also how all of their attacks and figuring out through the attacks what these bigots most fear, the Democrats, the bigots who control the Democrats, what they most fear. Why are they attacking me? All I wanted to do is work hard, save, and invest. But why are they so afraid of me following the rules-ish, like anybody else? If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, kind of thing. But at least you're trying to work within the spirit of the laws. What are they so afraid of? They're just cowards. Trump's a coward. He's a crook and a coward. So, starting the 1st, veterans need to start uniting. My thinking is every morning a bugler plays the morning bugle, No taps at night until we still in occupy. Everyone shows up. Oh, well, actually, a bugler at night. We show up, protest. You sign up online. Say, oh, okay, I'm going to protest. I'm going to be down there. Like, you take shifts. You know, if you live in the tri-state area, you pick a day, and that's your day. You go, okay, I'm going to protest for these 2 days, or I'm going to protest for three. I can swing 3 hours on Saturday. Okay, and you sign up, and people show up because. And then we also have people taking care of our national park, our city. It's not Trump's. It belongs to us. How dare him tell us we can't be in our city? We need to move now and sustain pressure because the Democrats under Schumer and Jeffries and all the rest of the corporate Democrats are bought out traitors. They knew they overthrew the Constitution, and they don't want to do anything about it because they think they're going to get power, and with that big power, we can then do. No, that's never what's going to happen. Or the excuse they'll tell everybody else is, well, if we do this, then they'll do that. Duh. But you should have enough power so they don't do that. The reason they do that is because they think you don't have any power. You think all this walking over everybody is because the far right thinks Democrats have any power? Of course not. They view the Democrats and the resistance as a weak bunch of wimps who can't figure out which bathroom to use. And in many ways, they're right. So, and he said, I'm going to get a hold of Jolly Good Ginger because he put it together, and view him as, hopefully get him to ask, then get other former military officers who are better at organization, have more practice at it. He says, these are the things we need to set out to do, and give him the beginnings because he's done a really great job. And then we go, and he might actually be able to be the one who be able to bring it all the way out. We 2 million people where we're doing garbage collection. We're making sure we're bringing in donations. We have lawyers on standby. We have people in DC making sure they keep an eye on ICE. We have bands. We have people who, we're not going to be angry. And that's what Trump wants. And the happier we are, the more he's going to invert and implode. And we're going to say, this is ours. This is our country. This is our city. And we have power. These fascists will not. Americans, the sovereign does not bend the knee, and we, the people, are the sovereign. So, we got work to do, America. Good luck. May God bless us all. And may God bless America.